Good evening, I'm Marivelle Tarouk. Tenants displaced by a massive fire last month are pressing their landlord for answers. They rallied in front of their building near Jane and Steeles today, demanding better communication about when they can return to their units. Our Taylor Simmons was there too.
Tenants of 235 Gosford are strong, united, and won't back down.
Jeffrey Villacorta is one of hundreds of residents still unable to move back home.
It's really hard because we've been staying in the shelter, and I have little kids. This is the lowest point of our life so far.
His family escaped the fire November 15th, fleeing in their pajamas and flip-flops. The blaze left 1 dead, 6 injured, and 700 displaced.
I want answers from management. I think we all do.
A group rallied in front of the building today, asking their management for more information on repairs and accommodations.
Show your faith. You know, that's all the people, a lot of my members, that's all they want.
They're just hiding from their Facebook. They're not even communicating to us.
Ron K Management Inc. set up an online group for updates. It says they hope to have residents home sometime in the new year. In a statement to CBC Toronto, they added, everyone who has requested housing has been provided with temporary accommodation, and those who chose to find their own housing solution have received a transition payment equal to their December rent.
They've specifically refused to come to the table to discuss solutions.
But this lawyer who's helping the tenant says some tell her they aren't getting that help.
We've been informed that basically the landlord is waiting for their insurer to provide a lawyer to deal with this whole mess, and in the interim just wait. And that's not good enough. There is the possibility of court action.
We have all come together.
Villacorta says for now his insurance is covering a hotel for his family, but with his building still boarded up and badly damaged, he wonders how long he and his children will have to wait.
They always ask us, when are we going back home? When are we going back home? You know, the trauma that they have too, it's like, it's gonna be there forever.
And this isn't the end of advocacy by residents. The Jane and Finch Community Organization is holding another rally here tomorrow at 3 p.m. asking for answers from property management. Taylor Simmons, CBC News, Toronto.
2 children are in critical condition today after a crash on Highway 401 last night. It happened near the Warden Avenue exit in the express lanes around 10. Police say a vehicle slowed down, then came to a stop because of traffic. A small Honda then slammed into its rear. Then a pickup truck slammed into the back of that car. The injured children, a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, were in the Honda with their parents. The mother was seriously injured and the father suffered minor injuries. A 5th person from another vehicle was also injured. Police say impaired driving is not a factor in this crash. Elementary teachers in the province are ramping up their Work to Rule campaign by halting field trips and other services. The Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario says it will be starting the 2nd phase of its Work to Rule campaign on Tuesday. Along with affecting field trips, teachers will not be sending letters home or collecting money for school-based activities. They have been in the 1st phase of their job action since last week. Meanwhile, the union representing high school teachers says it won't follow through on another one-day strike next week if the province meets certain demands. The Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation says it will go into private mediation if the government agrees to reduce class sizes, eliminating mandatory e-learning courses, and a compensation hike in line with inflation. The Minister of Education's office said today that they have already proposed a reduction in class sizes and the number of online courses, along with a 1% raise in wages. Neither side has gone back to the bargaining table since last week's walkout. The OSSTF plans to walk off the job at some school boards again on Wednesday. Well, if you're hopping on a plane this holiday season, be sure to check out what you can and cannot take with you before you get to the airport.
Oh, we saw all sorts of things. I remember seeing belts of fake ammunition. I remember seeing a circular saw. I remember seeing all sorts of things, brass knuckles. We see all sorts of things.
CATSA, that's Canada's air security agency, set up a display with some of the things they've seized. The agency has an app where you can search by item what's allowed in your carry-on or checked luggage. Knives, for example, need to be checked if the blade is more than 6 centimeters long. Guns, even fake ones, are a no. As for cannabis, anything under 30 grams is allowed. Medical users are allowed up to 150 grams, but those are on domestic flights only. It is always illegal to cross the border with cannabis, even if you're flying from Canada to another place where the drug is legal. All right, it's time to check the weather this weekend, and we'll see Marta again for that. So a little bit on the cool side, but tomorrow I think
Tomorrow's going to be warmer, actually. It's going to be above seasonal, but don't be fooled with that. There will be some showers, but not tomorrow. It's going to be a wet start to the week, but I'll tell you about that a little later in the show. Let's focus on tomorrow. So Sunday morning, 1 degree, feels like -5, but look at this. By the afternoon, 6 degrees. For this time, it should be around 2 degrees. So, I mean, it feels like 2, but it is well above seasonal for this time of year. Let's talk about what's happening tomorrow on Sunday. It's going to be a cloudy, sunny breaks through the day, but this southerly flow is really what's causing that warmth throughout. Now, the snow will stay northeast, and really, we're going to be protected here in the south, but it will be cloudy with those sunny breaks through Sunday. Now, taking a look at those forecast conditions, you can see in Toronto 6 degrees, London 7, and in extreme southwestern Ontario even as high as 8 degrees. That's the daytime high. But in the northeast, you see that snow shower, and it will only intensify a little bit later. Now, zooming in closer to the GTA, you can see Newmarket 4 degrees, Oakville 6, in Hamilton it's 7, in Guelph it's 5 degrees. But it's also going to be a gusty day, and now we could see wind gusts of up to 50 to 60 kilometers per hour. You could see those gusts just going up a little bit slightly. But again, that southerly flow really pushing in on Sunday. Now, I'll tell you about this Monday morning, a washout. There's going to be snow to the north. Milder temperatures in through the south will allow for that precipitation to actually be rain. So it's going to be quite rainy through all day on Monday. Just a complete washout for southern Ontario starting the work week. And here's just a quick look at that rainfall outlook. Monday into Tuesday, 5 to 10 millimeters of that rain through the GTA. And then it gets heavier as you go into extreme southwestern Ontario, 10 to 20 millimeters of rain as well. So it's going to be quite a washout on Monday. And then we can see that here. But we'll talk a little bit later in the show.
Okay, we'll see you then. Thanks, Marta. Hundreds of gamers are in Toronto this weekend for the ultimate esports event. Red Bull is hosting its Adrenaline event in Ontario for the second year in a row. This comes as the esports economy is poised to hit $1 billion for the first time this year. The weekend brings together gamers from across North America to compete, learn, and to meet some of their biggest heroes. Angelina King joins us live from the Enercare Centre, where things seem to be getting pretty exciting there right now. Angelina?
Oh yeah, because this is the event that hundreds of people have been waiting for. This is called the speed running session. It's when people try and play and beat a game as fast as they possibly can. And as you can see, it is quite the spectator sport. Tons of people gathered. They'll be watching these people play for hours. They've been cheering, clapping, even asking them some questions. So they're watching some of the top speed runners play right now. You can see in the pink sweater there, that's David Hunt, also known as Grand Pooh Bear. He is a very popular professional speed runner with more than 90 million views on YouTube. He's actually hosting this event. So he tours around North America doing this, playing for fans, and he has beat Super Mario Brothers 3 in just over 3 minutes, which is extremely fast in the world of gaming. I was able to catch up with him earlier today, and he talked about just how collaborative speed running can be.
Normally it's just kind of us in the corner of our own room. Playing in front of a crowd is way different, and in my opinion, way more fun. Some guys call it more pressure. I think it's actually way less pressure because it's just like you get to interact with the crowd, you get to hear like real life responses, you get to hear claps. I love when people scream at me and everything else. It's the best. Getting to play in a crowd is like the most joy I get as a gamer.
Organizers say more than 1,000 competitors will be here this weekend and more than 500 fans. There's tons of things for them to do aside from competing. There's a hackathon, there are panels. People can also bring their own computer here so they can play 24 hours a day. Some of the big events are streamed online with commentators. I spoke with one who said events like this help to combat some of the negative stereotypes that are out there.
The age of gaming has really pushed us into new horizons. We have Fortnite that has really just shined light on streaming, and that's even taken some of those streamer guys to the late shows, you know, on TV, on CNN. I mean, there's just so many avenues that gaming is starting to push us in. We're also in the educational systems now, too. There are a ton of college teams that have collegiate esports organizations partnered with them, scholarships. I mean, there's just so many things that gaming can really bring.
So people here say that this really is a competitive sport. It takes a ton of skill, a ton of dedication, and hours of practice. I spoke with a lot of competitors who say that they practice about 30 to 60 hours a week, and a lot of people here are just happy that there's an event like this in Toronto to bring the community together.
It's cool to rub shoulders with some of the greats, and then like as somebody like me who's been playing for a long time, I have experience, but I'm not like great yet, so it's good to get advice and get experience playing the greats of the game.
Just great to see that so many different people can be brought together by being interested at least in one little video game, right? Well, I guess it's not so little. They have.
And I'm seeing people that I've only seen on YouTube or on the internet in the same line as me with the registration form. It's just totally weird to be like, oh yeah, they're also people. It's really, but.
So people will be playing here tonight, overnight, into tomorrow morning. The tournament finals are tomorrow evening, and there's more than $30,000 in prize money to be distributed throughout the weekend. So a lot of excitement here, but also a lot at stake too. Maribel?
Goodness, Angelina, I'm from the Atari generation, so this is a lot to wrap my head around. Thanks for the insight. Well, if you are planning to head to that tournament or anywhere else in the city, you may need to schedule a bit more time if you're using TTC. A portion of Line 1 is shut down this weekend for maintenance. There is no subway service between Shepherd Yonge and St. Clair stations. Shuttle buses are running along that route instead. Regular service, though, will resume on Monday. A chorus of voices raised in anger and pain coming up after the break. Two high-profile attacks against women in India are setting the country on edge. Stay with us. Outrage is growing in India after two horrific rape cases. In one of them, a woman died after she was set on fire while on her way to testify against her alleged rapists. It is the second incident of its kind in recent days in India. As Aaron Broman reports, people are taking to the streets in protest.
Men and women united in fury after a 23-year-old rape victim was killed. She was on her way to court on Thursday. She was to testify in a rape case against two men. Allegedly, they, with three others, doused her in kerosene and set her on fire. With burns to more than 95% of her body, she died on Friday. Her family is calling for the perpetrators to be hanged and for the case to be fast-tracked. Protests erupted across the country. The former president of Congress slammed the government for failing to protect the 23-year-old.
India is known as the rape capital of the world. Foreign nations are asking the question why India is unable to look after its daughters and sisters.
It's the second case in 2 weeks of a young woman being attacked by a group of men, set on fire and killed. A 27-year-old veterinarian was gang raped and killed in late November. Police later controversially shot the four suspects. New Delhi police clashed with protesters on Saturday as they demonstrated against the violence and accused Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government of silence. Shruti Kapoor is an activist against gender-based violence. She says victims face shame, victim blaming, delays with police, non-standardized medical tests, and an overwhelmed court system.
Our judicial system is so broken, so backlogged with cases that it takes years for a survivor to get any sort of justice.
The men involved in the attack against the 23-year-old woman remain in custody as the people of India continue to voice their outrage. Aaron Broman, CBC News, Winnipeg.
In a rare move of cooperation, the U.S. and Iran have conducted a prisoner swap.
Actually, I think it was a great thing for Iran. I think it was great to show that we can do something. It might have been a precursor as to what can be done.
Iranian scientist Masoud Soleimani was exchanged for Chinese-American graduate researcher Ziyu Wang. The Princeton graduate student was held in Iran for 3 years on spying charges that were widely criticized. Soleimani was arrested last year in the U.S., accused of trying to take biological material to Iran. Switzerland facilitated the exchange. For a third day, transit in France was hobbled by strikes in the rail, bus, and subway systems. In Paris, that meant a heavy load for the few buses that were running. More than half the subway lines were closed. A government plan to reform pensions precipitated the job action. It is set to continue through tomorrow, and a large protest is slated for Tuesday. Well, forget not touching the art. In a few minutes, we'll introduce you to an exhibit that's asking you to step into the art. Details when we get back. There are many Santas on display this time of year, mostly white. But there are efforts to reflect the diversity of our society. Lorenda Redekop takes us to one Toronto store that is exercising its inclusivity clause.
Oh, come here, dear Santa Claus, I can explain.
As you can see, this big guy in the red suit looks different from most Santas.
Black Santa is here and we need to see him.
He's a popular guy, here for just one afternoon.
I have been looking for Black Santa because I haven't seen one since I was little. So I went on a Facebook group where Black families can look for Black Santas all across the world.
The largest mall in the U.S. has had a Black Santa. This year, there's one in Edmonton, too. Here, it's the second year in a row for this Santa, along with his Mrs. Claus.
The amount of kids who came through and just willing to see, you know, another Santa Claus was just awesome. So when I was told, hey, would you do this next year? I'm like, yeah, I ain't gonna miss it. Does Santa Claus miss Christmas?
Even the slightly bigger kids got their picture taken.
I felt a little awkward because I haven't had a picture of Santa since I was like 3. I guess I feel represented in a way, just to see someone from my culture.
One mother drove in from a town an hour away.
It's a diverse world we live in, and I want my kids to be exposed to the way the world really is. And, you know, we're a family that is a little bit different from the traditional family, too.
Not everyone is so sure about him, but this visit to Santa is extra special to the parents.
You know, him being an African-American boy, I want him to see people that look like him in all aspects, in all careers. And, you know, so that was important to me. Even if it's just a picture and he sees it later, somebody looks like him.
Right now, there's a lineup that goes almost out the door. And given how popular this event is, the organizer says she's thinking of adding another day this year. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, imagine if you could step into the paintings of Vincent van Gogh. An exhibit in Montreal wants visitors to do just that. Arts reporter Yelena Adzik walks us through.
Do not touch the paintings. That's what you normally hear or read at most art exhibitions. But this one is different because not only are you encouraged to touch them, but you can even take a run at them. And that's because the paintings at Montreal's Imagine Van Gogh exhibit are actually projections of the canvas on massive panels on the walls and on the floor. More than 200 works are blown up and split into panels, giving you the 360-degree sense of being completely immersed into Starry Night or the Yellow House.
Children can run, you can touch the canvas, you are not only in the view paintings, but you are inside the paintings, inside all those details.
Now, some critics have said that virtual shows like this can debase the original works of art, but the interest is still high. Montreal's Arsenal Contemporary Art Centre sold 40,000 tickets before the show even opened. Here's a sense of the response this weekend.
It's crazy to see those marvelous paint at that size.
It's very impressive because it's huge. It's everywhere.
You really feel like you're in another world.
Remember, the context here is that Van Gogh painted many of these works in the late 1800s, so it's hard to imagine what he would think of this modern-day exhibit. For sure, we do know that Van Gogh's boundary-breaking work wasn't appreciated during his lifetime. It's said that his own mother had thrown away crates full of his art. So there is something very appealing about going from being virtually unknown to virtually recreated and appreciated anew. The Imagine Van Gogh exhibit runs in Montreal until February of 2020. Yelena Adzik, CBC News, Toronto.
The cast of Come From Away paid a visit to the Daily Bread Food Bank today for a special one-time event welcoming donors to an East Coast-style kitchen party and a mini concert. All this to raise food and funds for those in need this holiday season.
Welcome to the rack if you come from away.
Come From Away has taken over the Daily Bread Food Bank.
The story of Come From Away is what happened in Gander, Newfoundland, when 7,000 strangers arrived in the town because of 9/11.
It's kind of a no-brainer, this connection, because the people of Gander fed 7,000 people for 5 days. So we would like to feed as many of the people in Toronto and the surrounding area for as many days as we can.
It's something that we've learned in the last 2 years of this show, that if you can help people, you should help people.
Well, we expect to raise close to $50,000, and that will go to things that are desperately needed, not only at this time of year, but all throughout the year. To me, there's a natural fit between Come From Away and the work that the Daily Bread Food Bank does every single day.
Let's check in with Marta now for our long-range forecast. So warm up tomorrow and then a lot of wet, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to get a lot colder, I'm sorry to say. But the next few days will be above seasonal. But with that, I mean, that's a lot of moisture coming from the Gulf, bringing those warmer temperatures. And this is going to bring in this moisture-laden system, which is going to bring that rain throughout on Monday. We already talked about it a little bit earlier, but let's look at that timing. So you can just see this swath of green throughout Monday and even lingering into Tuesday. So it's going to be a washout for Monday. In the afternoon, that's when it's going to be the heaviest of time. And again, the temperatures will be above seasonal, as I mentioned, 6 degrees. So you can see that widespread rain through the south, and then through the northeast, it's that snow. But again, as I showed you a little bit earlier, just a rainfall outlook, 5 to 10 millimeters for areas inclusive of the GTA. But I want to talk a little bit about Wednesday. That's where that cool down is, -4 in Toronto.
Okay, well, brace for it. Thanks, Marta. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you for watching. You can stay caught up on news anytime on our website, cbcnews.ca. Have yourselves a great night, everyone.